Hey guys, hi Muhammad Akram. Welcome to this session. I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear. Can you just quickly give a confirmation if it is audible to you? Ruhani, will you be able to confirm? I mean, if I'm audible to you, can you hear me? If it's my audio is audible and you guys can hear me loud and clear. Okay, thanks, Akram. Thank you so much for confirming. So let's wait for a few more minutes, and meanwhile, if you guys can put your introduction, what is your overall background currently, and like what technology stack you guys are working on, probably that will be a good start, and we can get started our session on time, and definitely I'll help you out and explain the concept of a high level, at least on as per the agenda, like how we can understand the AZ-104 certification and what all the things are part of it. So that's something I can help you out. So maybe if you guys can introduce yourself, maybe what background you guys are coming from, and what exactly like your goal is at the end of the session you wanted to take it with you. So I think that will be a good input from all of you. So just let me know and we can move forward. So I see Akram, Akshata, Supriya, Sujit. Thank you guys for joining this session. And okay, Akram says I'm working as a technical specialist in Azure Cloud. Okay, okay. What's the objective at the end of this session? What you're looking at it? So as you guys see that it's more about understanding the certifications. There are a lot of changes coming up in uh, Azure certifications. As per the recent announcement, I mean, there is one more certification track got updated with AZ-305. Even AZ-104 recently updated, I think, in September. So yeah, a lot of updates are coming up in certification. So definitely I can help you out with uh, understanding what can be done and how the overall program help you out in terms of preparing for it. Supriya says my primary skill is Linux. I passed AZ-900 last month and looking forward to SC-900 and AZ-104. I am Azure Compute and Storage Engineer at Microsoft. Oh, that's really great. And happy to hear that you are exactly looking for, and definitely, I mean, this is something, a kind of you can say a session which will help you in terms of understanding how the certification part looks like, and what could be the way to go for it. So definitely you can easily understand and get familiar with it. Okay, so yep, few more minutes and then we will get started with our session. Still, I see like many folks have joined, and If you guys can introduce yourself, kindly share your input on background, what you are looking at it from the overall session point of view. And if you have any specific questions or queries, feel free to post it in a chat window. I'll take those questions at appropriate time frame and then help you out with whatever insight in that case. Akram says understand more in depth of Azure cloud. Okay, okay, absolutely. So yeah, I think uh, as per the current trend, many enterprises moving towards cloud platform. People who have not yet adopted, they are in planning, and definitely it's I can say it's a right time to get familiar with things in terms of cloud point of view, get familiar with cloud services. And on top of that, if you are really a particular certified person, then there are definitely multi opportunities available from the market point of view. And it will be really helpful in terms of upskill yourself on specific cloud technology stack. So that's really required. So yeah, I think 2 more minutes and then we can get started. I see like very few folks has introduced. Please introduce yourself, and that will really helpful to me in terms of getting familiar with participants, and then we can get started with uh, our certification related discussions, understanding of how the overall objective, uh, as an admin, what role you gonna play and how it looks like is something we are going ahead with that. So just let me know. I mean, if you guys can provide more input, that will be really great and helpful. Anybody wanted to provide any further input or informations regarding your background? Okay, Supriya says, what are we going to cover in this 2 hour session and what outcome we can expect? Is it like exam prep exactly, or discussing all easy components part of AZ-104? So Supriya, I mean, yeah, I think the second part of it is something what we're gonna take a look at it. Of course, right now I'll be talking about in this particular 2 hours time frame. We'll talk about what all the core services. I'll explain the entire agenda, what we are planning to cover and all, and then we will take it forward, right? So yeah, I think you will come to know what's the overall agenda we are planning to cover up and how we are going about it. Yeah. So I think we can get started now. Rohani, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Jigar.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah.
Yep, you can kickstart. So, yeah,
Mhm.
go
Yeah.
ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, and hope you all are well and safe. Tonight, Tech Scalable has come up with a webinar on Microsoft Azure Administrator Track, that is AZ-104. Just to give you a brief about Tech Scalable provides services across training and consulting domain focused on cloud, DevOps, machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence. Today's webinar will be presented by Jigar Pathak. Let me just give you a quick brief introduction on Jigar's profile. Jigar comes with an 16 plus years of experience. He's a partner and a senior architect at Tech Scalable. In last 16 plus years, Jigar has trained more than 2,500 professionals across the globe via classroom and virtual session. For many of the clients, he has trained Microsoft Russia, Infosys, Accenture, TCS, etc. He has also delivered Azure Certification training and a Women Empowerment Program at Saudi Arabia. Being a multi cloud solution architect, he has successfully completed certifications from Microsoft Azure and AWS. Over to you, Jigar.
Hey, thanks, Ruhani, for the quick introduction. So, guys, uh, as we move forward with this session, just wanted to, like, as I mentioned, that kindly share about your background. What's your objective in terms of going through with this session, and we will go through in a step by step way so that it will helpful to you in terms of understanding what can be expected, how you can prepare yourself for certifications. And definitely, I mean, we're going to take a look at it on one demo session on the Azure front, where we're going to have some particular activity also to be done, right? So let me talk about the agenda, what we are planning. So in this particular webinar, we're going to understand that how the cloud admin role emerging in this particular era. What is the expectation from the uh, organization's point of view or enterprises point of view, where you gonna play around with the services, you gonna manage, as Supriya rightly mentioned, that nowadays, like most of the enterprises, when they are expecting professionals to work on their services, they expect them to be certified and manage their particular infrastructure, or admin their particular solutions, what is up and running, right? So definitely that is one of the core objective. At the same time, we're gonna take a look at it, some core services of Azure, which is something we're gonna talk about at the end, from the infra point of view, what all the components are part of it. We'll be also discussing about the demo. We'll talk about one high level architecture, and we'll also discuss about like how that component will helpful to you. We'll see a hands-on demo. I'll show you, like, if in case any simple deployment of AKS environment, what can be done, and we're going to take a look at it, some step-by-step activity on top of it. And we'll be also discussing regarding role-based certifications from the Azure front. So at the end, basically, when you are going ahead with Azure certifications, then what all the things you need to cover up, like how you can prepare, what you can prepare, what all the area will be covered up, and all that stuff, right? So that's basically the core understanding we're gonna go through with this now. If I want to get started, first thing in place, the primary objective, or understanding what we are looking at it, that what will be the role of cloud admin with the Azure, right? If we are going ahead to play administrative role. So Microsoft has launched role-based certifications few years back, and I mean, if I talk about the history of overall certification, earlier it started with like 70532, 533, 534, and all, and slowly and gradually Microsoft certification track got enhanced, and it was clearly identified that the infra administration, the development front, and as well as the solution architect point of view. But now if you see, like, there are so many verticals, there are so many role based certifications available, and these are some core certifications, I can say, which you can appear for, and you can I mean, upskill with those certification tracks. So administrator role, it is something majorly focused on working on variety of services, right? So it works on compute, network, storage kind of services, administrating those particular infrastructure stack. And also, uh, I mean, when we segregate them, like, let's say if I say storage, then there are multiple storage options available. If I'm talking about networking or compute, then you may have some variety of services underneath. So it's not just only simple infrastructure as a service, but there are possibility of platform as a service also. You need to evolve and administer those particular components as well. So we're going to understand that, probably, like, what all the tool chains available, what all the architectural components or core services are part of it, right? So that is something we're going to take a look at it. uh, and definitely, I mean, these are some particular standard role which is expected from the industry point of view. We'll be talking about uh, some particular when you are actually go and deep dive into AZ-104 certification program as well, then that will definitely help you out understanding end-to-end infrastructure administrations, the complete life cycle of that infra deployment, planning, monitoring, and like variety of activities you're going to do it, scaling and all that particular stuff, right? So those are some expectations from even enterprise point of view. So definitely, I mean, most of you guys are working, or you must be looking for some what do you say, a kind of scope that what all the places we can use Azure services effectively. And definitely, I mean, at the same time, like certification is the objective. So here it will be a kind of the role which is expected from administration point of view. uh, Being a admin, you should know how the scalability works, what kind of configurations you need, how you can like administer the infrastructure, whether it's a cluster availability, or maybe you can say you need to match SLA based on the customer requirement. So you might setting up your infrastructure with availability zones, and variety of things are part of it. So at the end, the objective which is expected as an outcome of administrative role is to complete life cycle of infrastructure management, right, or administrations and all. Now to do so, there are multiple way in terms of Azure. So you will be able to control your or you can manage or administer your particular infrastructure. There are multiple ways. You can simply go ahead with Azure portal and you can perform some activities. You may have PowerShell, CLI, or variety of interfaces available, and you can work with those particular components as well. Sorry. So that's basically a kind of scope where you can say, as an admin role, you will be playing these kind of activities at the end, and it will be really helpful in terms of working on such kind of activities the way it is expected. So as you guys rightly mentioned that coming from infra management or administration point of view, if we are supposed to work on some particular component and managing those particular infrastructure stack, then what is expected, how we can do that, and uh, step by step we can approach or manage the overall environment the way it is expected. Now from the certification point of view, right, I mean, definitely we will discuss a little bit more in detail that what is expected and what all the things can be part of it. So if you're willing to go ahead and plan your certification going forward in future, then what all the exam objectives and other stuff you can look for. So we're gonna talk about that part as well. So uh, yeah, so if we move forward, so first thing in place, we will be talking about some Azure core services, right? So let's say when you are planning with any you can say infrastructure management or resource management with the Azure, then what can be done? How that particular solution works? What kind of like management you are expecting throughout this particular infrastructure as a service? Now, as a part of administrative role, there are core services. I can say core services are focused on, I mean, if I'm considering like network, storage, compute, those are some particular core services what I can think of. So of course, I mean, Azure has like multiple services. There are so many services are part of it, but here we're gonna right now take a look at it or talk about standard services which are in a, you can say, day to day usage, which can be like available or people can connect and access those services in regular way. And and that's why I'm calling it out as an Azure core services. So we're going to take a look at it, and then we'll go in demo, and then later stage we will talk about the overall understanding of Azure certification training program as well. So I'll help you out. I can give you some insight about it, as even I have also gone through with that certification. So definitely I can share some thoughts and some tips, probably if you guys are really planning to go ahead and appear for certification, what can be done in that case as well later stage. Yeah. So first thing in place, from the Azure core services. So uh, a network is something always come into picture first. If I'm talking about, like, let's say designing a solution point of view, because usually what happen when enterprise starts planning irrespective migration or modernization kind of activity, when they decide like, okay, let's get into cloud and move our infrastructure stack from on premise to cloud, then they decide like, it starts with networking. They define what kind of environment they have on premise, what kind of target environment they can put it in cloud, and probably they can establish some secure connectivity and all, right? So many of you might have heard, if you're coming from cloud background, then definitely you must have heard. If not, then probably kind of standard networking topology or scenarios what we think of, right? So usually the core services here, what we can say in AZ-104, you will get some standard networking scenarios where we're going to take a look at it, some variety of services which focuses on, like, let's say if I'm planning to create a landing zones, right? So landing zone is primary, you can say networking, which you set it up from your on premise to cloud, right? How your business going to communicate, how your customers going to communicate, or what kind of connectivity you are expecting with your services. So that starts with your landing zone. So a networking point of view, you will definitely end up identifying which is the right set of components, which is the right configurations you can expect, and you can expand your secure network channel from on-premise to cloud or cloud to cloud in Azure, right? So here there are definitely variety of services which talks about, like, you can say starting with virtual network. You can consider it will be like a standard service where you can say that will helpful to you in terms of defining your standard landing zone. And you can say that, hey, if this particular landing zone, if we are planning to establish connectivity from on premise to cloud, then, and the purpose could be anything, right? I mean, you can say that, hey, if it's the initial phase, then your organization might talk about migration, that let's move our particular servers or our data in a secure way from on premise to cloud. So probably how you can establish, there are different type of networking options available with Azure. They are like, probably you can say site to site, point to site, express route kind of connectivity and all, right? So some particular core networking components available which will helpful to you in terms of establishing your connectivity from a variety of options, right? On premise to cloud or cloud to cloud and all. Of course, I mean, there are other core components as well, like load balancer, application gateway, traffic manager and all. These are some core component which will helpful to you in terms of routing your traffic in a different conditions, right? Maybe, I mean, it's a question that, I mean, when to use what kind of service, right? So that is something probably we can say that, okay, oh yeah, I mean, if I have some specific requirement, then I can go ahead with, let's say, application gateway, or I can go ahead with, what do you say, like probably traffic manager or load balancers and other stuff. So it's more specific in terms of what all the components you are planning to utilize, how the service looks like, and the structure you wanted to follow in terms of Azure. So that's something what we can plan it out. Now, other than this, I can say from the you can say a content sharing point of view. So definitely CDN services. So you must have seen or heard about, like, nowadays a lot of video platforms are coming up with, right? So Amazon Prime, or probably you can say Netflix and whatnot. I mean, there are so many players which all are like available, and who's providing this kind of video on demand services or shopping cart, or even you can simply consider within your application you may have some particular CSS file or JS files, right? So probably you just wanted to share those particular content, and make it accessible as fast as possible to your end user, right? So in such case, probably CDN as a service available, which will helpful to you in terms of establishing similar kind of like environment, and you can expand that. So in general, networking is one of the core component which will helpful to you in terms of planning your a landing zone, designing your particular solutions, and later stage, I mean, you can admin variety of activities behind the scene, right? I mean, if I'm talking about like a little bit more uh, uh, higher side of it, so it will also offer some you can say your network routing, your particular connectivity with your multiple NIC cards, your services, and a lot of things you can cover up with the help of it. So ultimate goal with network as a service to establish connectivity and provide a high level security with your particular services the way it is expected. So ultimate goal over here is to give you some well defined approach, and you can plan your network landing zones, you can configure the connectivity, and you can plan to access like which what all the network can like have inbound and outbound traffic to be managed and all that, right? So that is something what you can plan it out. uh, Second core service if I want to consider is storage. So here I can say that from the storage front, so if I want to give an example, then on premise, I can say storage is one of the costlier component, right? Because if you're gonna take a look at it like tape drive or any other particular storage devices, then it will be like kind of costlier component on prem. But when it comes to cloud, it will become a kind of one of the uh, you can say it's a kind of like so one of the cheapest service which you can establish and create the solutions on top of it, and it will give you some well defined storage components in place. So there are multiple options available. Probably you can say if you're looking at NoSQL storage, or probably you can say unstructured kind of data, and also like you're looking for some file storage, or uploading or storing some PDFs, documents, or some sort of messaging services and all that, then probably storage is one of the service what you can think through. Also at the same time, you may have some extending your on-premise file share to cloud, right? So many enterprises who already have file share on-prem and they were like planning to extend that in cloud, then definitely you have some scope in terms of extending your particular file share services in terms of Azure. So you can definitely have your common configurations, your you can say setting files, logs, whatnot. I mean, you can have some kind of structures to be captured on top of it, and you can use them. uh, from disk storage point of view, so this is something more you can say it's a kind of like service which will helpful to you in terms of attaching disks to your virtual machines, and probably you can have some particular high level premium storage associated with that, and you can perform some heavy read write operations on top of it. So definitely I can say the storage components saves a lot of cost from the storage point of view, and it will be seamless administration and management on top of it, right? So it's a kind of like what kind of activity you are doing it on top of it, right? Now usually the way I have observed, many enterprises, when they are like having their particular services managed on top of the cloud, right? So when they are going ahead with their particular services or infrastructure to be deployed with Azure and all, so they expect a particular infrastructure to be managed. They will provide a kind of you can say it's a kind of like highly scalable storage device. And let's assume that I'm planning to migrate my SQL server from on-premise to cloud, and I'm looking for some high performance storage and all that stuff. Then probably this is something what you can look for or you can think through, right? So that will be a kind of options what we can consider. So here I can say the objective is that to provide you a scalable storage options, and it will be a kind of standard options which you can think through. The other stuff is that the compute point of view. Now there are multiple compute services, right? So uh, this is something I can say when you are working with infrastructure as a service, right? When you are going ahead with solution, then how this entire compute service looks like. So compute I will divide in a two part, like infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. So infra point of view, definitely you have of course, I mean, I have not listed all of them, but the high level services are defined here, you can say, which is something majorly focused on. You can consider it as in virtual machine, as in IaaS service. Of course, virtual machine scale set, but that little bit fall into managed service kind of thing. But yeah, in general, the infrastructure side of virtual machines and the PaaS point of view, platform as a service, there are multiple way. So that will be you will see that if you are planning to build and host your solutions with let's say particular a standard standalone web applications, then you can simply go ahead with Azure App Services or Azure Web Apps, which will definitely help you to host your web app with less infrastructure operations management and all, right? Of course, it's a PaaS service, but the administration will be simplified. You can easily manage the particular component, and it will give you some well defined approach to manage this particular services, right? So that's basically a kind of like standard approach what you can follow along with that. Now here I can say the particular role of other PaaS services. So, for example, if I'm going ahead with, you can say, if I'm going ahead with AKS or Azure Service Fabric or Azure Function App and all. So, these are some particular standard services which will definitely like give you a kind of option that, hey, if I'm willing to play around with my PaaS services, I'm looking for some serverless component, I'm looking for some containerizations and all that, where orchestration layer, we are looking for some strong orchestration layer, then AKS and other stuff plays an important role. uh, I still remember, I mean, just a little bit off the track, but I still remember like when Microsoft launched AKS. So I think it was a year of 2017. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 2017 or 2018 in between. Like it was 2017 last or 2018 mid kind of. So in between they launch AKS service. So why I remember this incident, because there was one enterprise and they were expecting to onboard their e-commerce platform, moving from on-premise Kubernetes to Azure, AWS, or Google. So they were looking for some fully managed platform offered in cloud. So we all you guys must have heard about like Kubernetes is something available as an open source technology stack, and it will be a kind of like strong container orchestration management. You can get it on top of it, and you can have some well defined approach to play around with Kubernetes and all, right? So they were struggling with some on premise setup, and their primary objective was to move their infrastructure setup from self-managed Kubernetes to managed Kubernetes. And they were evaluating that which cloud service provider comes first with generally available AKS service or a Kubernetes service, fully managed Kubernetes service, and they are like planning to ready to go ahead with them. So they started looking for a POC on top of the cloud, and they realized that Azure was the first who launched as in generally available AKS cluster. And at that time, they decided to go ahead with generally available cluster and move it into AKS. And of course, I mean, AKS was offering a quite a good networking, secure networking approach, and lot many particular features like storage and network and many other particular component was part of it. So they went ahead with AKS and then migrated their entire e-commerce platform from their self-managed Kubernetes to managed Kubernetes platform in Azure. So definitely from a compute point of view, where you can say that hey, many enterprises nowadays looking for some a fully managed kind of platform where they can reduce little bit effort in terms of managing infra component, and they can spend more time on the configuration side of it, right? So that they can manage their clusters, you can say they can scale accordingly, they can manage their orchestrations on top of it. So those kind of activities they were expecting in that particular case. So here I can say and also, I mean, as I said, like we're going to take a look at it, a simple demo on AKS as well, where how you can build and create your simple cluster, and if you are planning to deploy some particular uh, services on top of it, then what can be done and how that particular activity looks like, right? So that is something we can take a look at it. So here the core services from you can say network storage and compute point of view, then these are some particular core services which enterprise point of view definitely organization look for, that people who gonna work on it, who can manage the infrastructures, they can help in managing or administrating these particular kind of core services. Of course, I mean, depend on the based on the exam objectives. Right now I have not added all of them. We will talk a little bit later in this slide, upcoming slide. So I'll talk about that particular thing as well, that what are the other aspects like probably monitoring or identity access management and all, which is something also equivalently important to administrating your environment and all, right? So we're going to take a look at it, that part as well. Now here uh, what we're gonna talk about is that this particular the demo what we are planning is that what all the components we are going to cover up in the demo. So I'll this is like simple reference architecture I have prepared just to simply explain that what we are planning to go through and how this entire AKS part of it we are going to cover up and all. Okay. So usually what happens that when we are working on you can say a kind of administrating infrastructure, then definitely of course, I mean, this is like high level uh, a simple straightforward architecture to deploy your Azure Kubernetes cluster. And the deployment of this particular services, we can utilize some standard YAML file, and we can push our particular YAML code, and we can start spinning up our particular nodes on top of it. Of course, I mean, you might have a question that hey, how expertise we need on Kubernetes front, because Kubernetes is something probably it's not mandatory that everybody should know, right? I mean, it's if you're working as in a specific role, then definitely it is expected that if you are more like interested, and nowadays you must have seen that many enterprises are going ahead with moving their infrastructure. They wanted to make it as a cloud agnostic solution, so that can be leveraged and migrated or managed anywhere in cloud, right? So Kubernetes is like the preference what they are looking at it. So here I can say the AKS basically provides you a kind of fully managed platform. The demo what we are planning to take a look at it is that we're going to create a particular YAML file, and we're going to have a deployment of that particular YAML file in our particular nodes. So we'll create the AKS cluster. So there are a couple of steps we what we're going to follow. We're going to create the AKS cluster, and that cluster is going to be created through portal UI. We'll be deploying a sample to-do applications, and I'll share the link as well. Definitely, I mean it's from Microsoft, so you will get to know, or it's a simple way to create and implement and just get familiar that how things works and all, right? So it is pretty much a straightforward one. We'll be understanding that what all the administrative activity we can do it with the help of that. So in terms of monitoring, in terms of deploying and configuring some environment on top of it, those are the activities what we are planning to cover up, or we are going through with this particular demo, right? So from the AKS point of view, when you are planning in terms of any infrastructure stack, right? So let me give a little bit background on AKS side, and then probably we can go with this particular demo. So Azure Kubernetes Service, as I mentioned, that Microsoft offers as in managed platform. So you will get a particular a fully managed AKS as in service. So the master node, which is something expected to manage your clusters, your incoming traffic, your outgoing traffic, probably configuring your particular services and whatnot. I mean, almost all the master node configurations will be taken care by the Azure, so it is fully managed by Azure. You are responsible in terms of working with the node, creating nodes, hosting it with the cluster, and behind the scene, the application deployment and other stuff you will be going through with it, right? So that's basically you are going ahead and you can implement certain kind of activities on top of it. So uh, we'll take a look at it, a simple demo, and then we will go through step by step in that particular case. But before that, let me see if you guys have any questions or queries. I can take those questions, and then probably we can move forward. Yep. So okay, I see there are a couple of questions. uh, So Mohammad Rehan says, I worked as an engineer in entity, have cleared easy, trying for further certification. So Rehan, I think this is the best way to go and get certified on AZ-104 and become a certified, you can say, admin on Azure. Ashwin says, okay, incident management, planning to switch into cloud technology. So Ashwin, I think I can say this is probably a way to start, and it will really helpful in terms of moving into cloud direction. So this probably you can look forward. uh okay, so Priya's questions Ruhani answered. Okay, so Supriya says this AZ-104T00 is different from AZ-104 in any ways. So Supriya, that will be like applicable from MCTs, so people who are like Microsoft certified trainers and all. So Microsoft offers this particular course to deliver and all. So this 104 T100 T00 and all, they are like you can say version, or probably uh, kind of like a course structure which is offered by Microsoft. So maybe on official portal you will see with some reference number and all, but ultimately they are the same courses. Yeah. So that's basically the answer to your question. Yeah. Any other questions or queries so far? Okay. So what we can do is that we can take a look at it, the demo part of it. Okay, I see one more question. Premvada Sharma says, I have attempted 104 once. I found the time is less as compared to the length of questions. Could you share some tips for this? Uh, sure, Premvada, I'll definitely do that. I'll definitely share the insight, like probably when you are planning to prepare for certifications, what kind of activities you can do it, because there are variety of questions asked, and it is really important that how you define your time to attempt those questions. And yeah, I mean, it's a little bit sometimes tricky because a lot of people spend time on reading questions and try to understand, and sometimes it becomes a little bit difficult, and you may you may skip or left out like school college exams, like we left to write some questions or attempt to write some questions because of the time crunch, and a lot of things we have written for other questions, and other we spend time a lot of on other questions. So yeah, I understand. So yeah, sure, we'll talk about it, what can be done in terms of time management point of view, and like if you are really willing to go ahead and appear for like reattempt the exam, then what can be done in that case. Yeah. Okay, so here the cluster point of view. So what we're going to do is that we'll be going through with one simple demo. Of course, I'll be using Microsoft step by step documentation right now, just for all of your reference. If anybody wanted to do it later stage on your own, probably you can refer the similar kind of documentation and then you can do it. So I'll go through with that, and it will become easy for all of you guys to also follow along with me in case if you're looking at it, and then you can work with that particular demo as well, right? So that's what my uh, goal. So let me come out of this presentation mode and switch to the portal. So I'll be sharing a particular link with all of you. Basically, this is a simple walkthrough activity from Azure front. I'll paste it in a chat with all of you so that you guys can use that. And this is like one of the simplest way in terms of creating a particular to do application. Of course, right now, I mean, I'm not expecting that if you guys wanted to go back and try it out something, then you just like struggle a little bit in terms of getting the link and other stuff. So I just wanted to keep it very simple. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to actual certification learning and all, from AZ-104 point of view, there are a lot of hands-ons, there are a lot of conceptual things which you need to understand, deep dive into those particular concepts, and it will really helpful in terms of getting familiar with what can be done from the Azure front, right? So uh, definitely, I mean, I encourage that those particular hands-on labs, you can give it a trial when you are going through with learning your AZ-104 and all later stage whenever you decide. But yeah, in general, just for this simple demo point of view, we will go through with this, and you guys can simply work on it, and you can create the similar kind of activity on your subscription as well. Of course, I mean, there are multiple way to create or work with your Azure subscription. So you may go ahead and create your free trial, or you can work with your MSDN account if you have any, or even in organization as well. If you have uh, what do you say, that CSP, the cloud service partnership with Microsoft and all, probably you may get some credits to work on your Azure subscriptions as well. So it depends. And there are multiple way to get your subscriptions as well, right? If you are going ahead with my.visualstudio.com as well, then probably you can have some free or probably MSDN subscriptions also in place, which you can use it for your activity, right? Now, from the cluster front, what we are planning to do is that if you are going ahead with creating any particular resource, right? So standard way, I mean, we'll be creating some sort of resource groups. We'll be creating AKS cluster, and with that cluster, there are some particular standard steps we are going to follow. So, simple. I'll go ahead with my services, create resource, and say Kubernetes services. And here I'll just uh, simply create my resource group. So click on create new resource group and say my resource group. uh, when you are planning to create a particular cluster, so definitely there is a option in terms of you can say what will be the pricing tier you are planning to apply over here. So you have standard, you have dev test, cost optimize activity. If you're looking for some batch process, or you're looking for some enterprise grade secure and stable services to manage and all, you can do so. Or else you have some detailed comparison as well. So if you are looking for AKS cluster to be deployed and you wanted to compare that what features will be available, what kind of like series of instance I can configure and all that, so you can pick and choose which one is appropriate for your business requirement, and you can go for it, right? So for example, if I'm looking for some local development and testing environment for my before going to live or productionize my clusters and all, probably I can simply go ahead with dev test environment, right? If I'm looking for some long term uh, infrastructure setup and I'm looking for some low cost or cost optimized clusters, then probably I can think of cost optimized one. And of course, I mean, there are some other criteria also given for batch processing or some secure connectivity and access you wanted to provide to your customers or to your organization. Probably you can look for hardened access and all that, right? So uh, if you see, I mean, it's a comparison given to you. Say for example, I am just looking for standard one because I know that what kind of workload I'm planning to deploy on top of it. So I can simply select my standard what do you say, pricing tier, and I can just simply click on apply. So this will be my standard deployment, right? You will be giving a cluster name, so I'm just following the guide, so it will become easy for all of you guys to also follow. Of course, you can give some unique naming convention and all when you're working with it. I mean, once you get familiar with activities and clusters and administration part and all, definitely you can do so. Now, why I'm showing you this demo with portal, because there is some what do you say, like certification questions coming up. So a lot of people call it out as an lab question, okay? Or maybe I can say they are like exhibit questions kind of. So when you are working with Azure, definitely in certification there are 2 to 3 questions comes from UI, right? So they might ask you like, okay, this is the UI, this is the problem statement, now you have to perform XYZ task. So how you going to do that, what you going to do that in that case? So of course every right step uh, basically give you marking, correct? Because there is no negative marking in certification. It will be always whatever the right step you have done, that marking will be considered. So what you need to do is that when you are performing steps, then you need to know the sequence, that which steps comes after which one, because sometimes the question might be arrange the steps, or maybe you need to follow the sequence and create that sequence in one line so that the right sequence can achieve the result, right? So kind of options might be there in your certification. So when you guys are preparing your certifications, definitely you have to get familiar with your UI well, because that will create really a good impact on your, I mean, you can score well in those kind of questions because it is just that click 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 and you are done with your answer. In other questions, definitely they are logic based questions, so you have to think a little bit and then you can appear. But this is something probably I suggest that you should take a look at it, right? Now, remaining stuff like region and zone wise, I'll keep it things as is. When you are going ahead with some Kubernetes version, so this is something really helpful. Now usually, uh, when the open source technologies are merged or gel with cloud, then if it is on premise, then one of the biggest challenges that how seamlessly, or I mean how complex we can upgrade our environment. Because when somebody asks you like, okay, your production version is already running with 1.0, now you just need to change from 1.0 to 1.1 or 1.2 or something like that, right? So lot of planning requires, lot of management requires, like downtime, uptime, you need to maintain a lot of things, and then you will be able to like change and modify the version. Or sometimes like things go went smooth, but you realize that something went wrong in applications and you have to roll back and stuff like that. So the problem statement is that to make sure that seamless update of your clusters and all, right? So here basically when you're planning to deploy AKS clusters and all, of course Azure offers latest and greatest, what do you say, the Kubernetes version, which you can select it and you can deploy. Of course, even you are running with something older version, definitely you may have options to change and go with the most stable version of the cluster, and then you can update with it, right? So that way it will helpful to you in terms of planning and updating your particular clusters. Of course, the size of the node. So here, uh, this is something, a particular VM size, which is something attached to your cluster. So if you remember in our slide, when we were talking about that demo part of it, so these are my particular nodes. So these nodes are nothing but my VMs, and inside that nodes, you may plan to create a particular instance with the particular configurations, and the pricing tier, the size and everything will be applicable accordingly, right? So you just need to select, pick and choose a right size of the cluster looking at your business requirement. Of course, I mean, a lot of people, little bit of the topic, but a lot of people think about this way, that once we deploy things in cloud, we are done, we are good to go ahead with it, right? But here I can say it requires constant administration. You need constant monitoring of your infrastructure stack, the usage, the performance, fine tune and all that stuff. It is very much required. So you always look for those kind of activities, and you can say that, okay, oh yeah, I mean, this is the time frame where less users are connecting with my infrastructure, so it will make more sense that we reduce or we downgrade the capacity of our infrastructure, probably, right? Maybe change the size and all that. And if so and so particular time frame we see like a lot more traction, maybe some sales are announced and all that particular stuff, we see more traction, so let's increase the capacity or performance, we can fine tune, and then we can enhance the capacity of our infrastructure. So that could be also done. So of course, it's constant administration required, constant monitoring required, and you can fine tune your performance throughout the solutions what you're up and running, right? So definitely the size of the node plays an important role. So we can pick and choose the right size, and then later stage, it is in your control, you can change and modify that any point of given time. Also, the scalability is given to you, whether you are looking for manual or auto scale. You can define that minimum one node, and like right now I'd say like, okay, instead of one, maybe I'll just go ahead with manual, and node count I'll keep it 3, let it be. So later, I mean, once this demo is done, I'll get rid of this cluster, right? So I'll keep it like 3 right now, as of now. Or even if you want to follow, you can just simply go ahead and take a look at it, this particular part as well. So anything is perfectly fine. So either you keep it manual, or let's go ahead with that configurations and keep it like auto scaling, and say next is your node pools. Now in this particular node pool, definitely you will be selecting that which one is something you are looking at it, and how the configuration works over here. So as of now, I'm not changing any configuration, because the components what we are expecting is something we wanted to deploy in terms of step by step way. So this is something what we are going ahead with the simple implementation of it, and we can say okay, right now whatever the node count and other stuff is part of it, we'll leave it as is. The next component is authentication. Okay, so here basically you may end up creating cluster more secure, right? So you have two options. Either you can go ahead with service principal, or you can go ahead with system assign manage identity. So there are two component are available to securing your cluster, so that if anybody planning to connect and access your cluster for management or for operations point of view and all, and you wanted to give some secure access to them, then probably these are some particular options what you can follow. So if I'm going ahead with service principal, then definitely you need your client id and your secrets to be created. If you're going ahead with system assigned manage identity, then you can just simply go ahead and create the authentication will be done via system assigned identity and all, right? So here right now you have multiple options available, right? So here you may create a particular simple way in terms of what kind of authentication mechanisms you are expecting and how you wanted to work or protect your environment. That is something you can decide. So as of now, tentatively I'm going ahead with system assign manage identity, not changing anything. Networking and other stuff, we will keep it simple. Now here, network perspective, when you are working with particular component, so networking and other monitoring related activities, right? So network is something, so I was giving one example of that enterprise, right? They have decided to migrate it into their self-managed Kubernetes cluster to AKS, right? So one of the core decision they made because of the networking part of it. So Azure was offering a particular uh, advanced networking along with customizations and all that they were looking for, and they decided to go ahead like how they wanted their network traffic to be routed and how the connectivity will be established and all that stuff. So basically this was one of the standard options which they followed, and they opted for yeah, AKS cluster in terms of Azure. So right now I can say this will leave a default configuration. I'll keep it as is, including monitoring and other stuff, right? And let's say review and create. So if all good, then we are able to see that validation will go thoroughly, and we will be able to create the AKS cluster the way it is expected. So let's wait for a few seconds and then it will get updated. Meanwhile, let me see if you guys have any questions. So Zaid says, I have a problem with connections. Can I download the recording, please? So Zaid, I think the recording will be available, so you can just simply go ahead and view it any point of given time. I'm not sure if YouTube is or LinkedIn is allowing you to download, but you can view the recordings online any point of given time. Yeah. Mohammad Akram says, how to increase C drive size once build is complete. So usually it's a disk, right? I mean, you do not have straightforward C drive size to be increased. That is something I can say it's a operating system drive attached to your instances and all, right? So if you want to increase the size and all, probably you need to increase the instance type and all, because many of the services, many of the virtual machines and all, or clusters which is attached to your environment and all, they have some capacity associated with that. So each instance will follow a certain kind of performance, right? So if you want some extensive performance and you wanted to increase the capacity of infra and all, then definitely you need to change the service tier. So as soon as you upgrade to your service tier, definitely the size will also get updated along with that. That is one standard way to do it. Second way is that maybe you can attach additional storage to your cluster, and if you are looking for some additional read write operations and other stuff to be performed, then I think that will be a better way to go ahead. No need to increase the capacity of C drive, and when you have certain kind of requirement, then you can attach those additional storage and you can perform those additional activity the way it is expected. Make sense? Or I mean, you have something, any other follow up questions, please feel free to post it. So yeah, guys, I mean, if you have any follow up questions or any queries, you are feel free to post it, and definitely I can help you out with answering those questions. Yep. So let this cluster get created, and once the cluster is in place, we'll take a look at it in terms of how this works and what kind of activity we can perform with the help of it. So as I said that when you guys are working with your certification, so the tips will be from these kind of questions, right? When you have a UI based questions, then the suggestion is that please make sure that whatever the UI question comes, at least you should have done good hands on, because the question comes to you like, okay, configure probably so and so service, or maybe there is a customer scenario given to you as a part of case study, because nowadays when you are attempting AZ-104 and all, you will get case study driven questions as well. And those case study driven questions, they give you some scenario, they give you a problem statement at organization level, and they expect that, okay, how you going to solve that, or how you going to help them in terms of solving that case study, right? So they might ask you a question that, hey, now so and so organization wanted to implement let's say Active Directory, or maybe configure this AKS cluster monitoring and all that. What steps you might gonna follow, or configure so and so activity on the given UI, right? So in such case, definitely, I mean, if you have done some hands on, if you have performed some activity with the given labs with certifications and all that, then that definitely that will help you in terms of answering those questions accurately. Because sometimes you might have to like run some command, or you connect with the portal. I mean, of course, they, I mean, not actual Azure portal, but the similar kind of simulations given to you in UI, and you just need to like click and submit the answer. So definitely it is expected that if you are familiar with some activity with it, then it will become easy for you, right? And you can simply create and configure stuff the way it is expected. So yes, let's wait few more minutes if this cluster gets created. So yeah, sometimes you might have to like refresh the UI, so it may get updated and you can easily get access to it. So yeah, cluster is getting created. Now, once the cluster gets created, the next step is majorly to connect with the cluster. You will end up working with, yeah, cluster is created. So you will end up working with this cluster, and you can connect with your node. You can deploy your application. Now, there are multiple way to do it. Okay, so right now we are going through with YAML file, which will be simplified way to deploy your particular code on top of it. That is one thing. Uh, Second part is that you may connect your ACR, Azure Container Registry, and you can automate your deployment with DevOps pipeline as well. So as in best practice, or probably you can say industry point of view, many enterprises are following some DevOps activity to be implemented with it, right? So for example, I would like to go ahead with Jenkins based deployment, or I would like to go ahead with Azure DevOps based deployment, and I can automate my entire container deployment cycle with those particular tool chain, right? So in that case, you may end up configuring some proper tool chain which helps you to automate your build release of your container images. You can push it into securely with the container registry, and from container registry it will pick up and deploy it into AKS cluster. So that is also one of the standard way to follow and automate your deployment strategy out of the box. So here I can say right now we have a simple cluster in place, and we just simply wanted that cluster to be deployed with predefined YAML file, and we will be able to connect and access that, right? So here you can simply open your Cloud Shell panel. uh, if you are like already logged in and you just wanted to connect, or if the Cloud Shell is already configured in your environment, then you can just simply open up and you have PowerShell, CLI, all the possible options to connect with and deploy the configurations the way it is expected, right? So here we just wanted to work with it and configure the services and deploy the environment. So yeah, the first step is that you need to validate that whether you are able to get your kubectl commands on top of it or not. So here, when you are working with Cloud Shell, so there are two difference over here. Okay, so one is that a lot of people administer infrastructure from their local machine. They do not have access to Azure portal as well, right? So you just get access to Cloud Shell, or sometimes even Cloud Shell also not given to you. You have to install PowerShell or CLI on your local machine, and then you need to connect to the infrastructures. You log in and you perform variety of activities via that local machine. So in such case, definitely, I mean, you need to download and install those command line tool chain. You need to download their modules, especially like right now we are working with Azure. And if you have local PowerShell on your machine and then you need to connect with Azure, then definitely you need to download and install your Azure modules. Similarly for Kubernetes, if you do not have anything as such available as in Kubernetes, then you need to install your Kubernetes module and all. So here the guide is given that if you, in case you are connecting with any of the services, then you can just simply go ahead and work with it. Now right now the advantage over here is that we have this particular commandlets installed, so we don't need to worry about it, and we can simply go ahead and work with that particular structure, right? So you have both the option, PowerShell or the Bash, and you can switch in between, and you can simply connect and access the services the way it is expected. Okay, so the first particular step is to connect with the particular component. So here I can say I'll just simply have a particular commandlet which will help me in terms of getting the commandlets, or you can say credentials of my particular Kubernetes cluster, and then I can have uh, access to that particular services, right? So right now, first you will be setting up the context. Now I have done this particular activity earlier, so it was showing me that the configurations and other stuff is already exists. So do you want to use that existing one or not? So I just said yes. But yeah, if you are doing it first time, then definitely you will go ahead and it will configure everything for you and generate that configuration file for you to connect with that particular cluster. The next step is to configure or get the nodes what you are up and running. So far we have created some particular nodes already in place. I mean, just looking at the time crunch, I'm like having those commandlets in place, and I'm just using it as I mentioned earlier. So kubectl get node. So kubectl is your Kubernetes commandlet, right? So whatever the particular cluster you are already up and running, it will revert back the three nodes what we have configured so far. It shows that your agent pool is ready. What is the version they are running with Kubernetes cluster, the latest and greatest, and those informations like age is like since when they are running, and all that informations will be part of it. So it will give you some default informations, and then you can simply go ahead and access that. Now this is like one of the simplest way in terms of managing or monitoring your services with it, right? So simplified way, and you can work with this particular component effectively. The next thing is to work with running your particular applications. Okay, so you just simply like execute the command as in code.azure-vote.yaml. Now this particular command is something giving you the idea in terms of what needs to be right and how the code will look like. Now here in my interface, I do have my particular code in place, right? So this is something you can say it's a kind of Visual Studio Code UI available, and you just need to copy paste the YAML file script inside this. Of course, I mean, YAML file is more about giving you a kind of overall configuration. I can say simple word ISE kind of infrastructure as a code, where whatever the configurations you are planning to deploy, it can be written inside that. You can provide the instructions and it will spin up the configuration the way it is expected. So it will helpful to you in terms of running your particular environment the way it is expected, right? So that's something already part of it. So here I'll just say that I'll close the editor. My environment is up and running. My next step is to run the configuration so that it will up and running with my particular cluster. So I'll simply run my particular YAML file, and it will make sure that whatever the services I need to configure and create over here, right? So uh, there are three services. We have voting service. We are going to create a backend. We are going to create a particular front end, and there will be a cache service which gets created along with it. So it will spin up that particular informations and services. And just last step is to test your particular environment. So it will helpful to you in terms of validating that if all good, then my cluster is up and running and I can like test my particular cluster. So here is the IP given. I mean, usually when you create your cluster, you need your public IP. Through that, you can connect and access that. So if you see in the YAML file, the instructions given in a way that it will make sure that your YAML file allows you to configure your instance and giving you particular IPs and port numbers to be open so that you can connect and access that particular service. So yeah, I can just simply say http colon slash slash and just simply hit enter to that particular IP, so that if all good, then we are in a better position to get access to a particular URL. So it will open up our particular front end application. We're going to have a that vote applications available, and then we can access that the way it is expected, right? So in general, the particular environment what we are expecting is something made available to you. The IP is something allowing you to connect to that particular service, and you can simply access that the way it is expected. So let me hit refresh one more time, and let's see if that works. So yeah, usually if all good, then I mean we are in a position to see this particular UI. It will be a particular web page will be up and running, and you can simply connect and access that particular UI. So that oops, I just need to reload. Let's see. So the IP is running, the cluster is up and running. So let's hope for the best. We get some response from this. So yeah, this is something you can say it's a kind of like standard way in terms of working with kind of UI, and you can have some what do you say, a kind of visibility in terms of connecting with the services, and it will helpful to you in terms of opening that particular kind of web pages and all that. So ultimate goal is to provide you a cluster based access, and then you can simplify it in terms of connecting with these particular services and all that. So that's something what you can do it. Oops, oh, by mistake I press Control C. Yeah, okay, no problem. So we can just connect back. So in that particular case, so you can see that it's a kind of like standard way in terms of connecting and configuring your ports. You can have some particular access to the applications, and at the end, uh, you will see similar kind of UI where you can say that your IP will be associated with that. You can have access to your particular application, and you can test and validate a certain kind of activity. Now here, from the UI point of view, if you are into your AKS cluster, right? So let's say being admin, if you are looking for monitoring these particular clusters what we are up and running, right? So here, uh, from the AKS cluster itself, you have a monitoring section, and inside that you have insights, right? So this insights basically give you a complete insight regarding the cluster. So if you see, there are some particular tabs are given, and of course, I mean, you will see some, if Microsoft is releasing any update to it, right? I always say that I mean, cloud is like keep evolving. So every day you will see some of the other particular things are getting changed into the UI, or even in portal or in service or anything. So you will see that particular updates are getting released in your portal, and then that will be like visible to your UI over here. So like one of the option is like what's new, and here it says that cluster, if you're looking for some reports, right? So for example, if you're looking to monitor something and you wanted some detailed insight regarding those particular components, you can go through. So it will show you reports regarding your nodes, your like when what is the health of this particular node, and everything will be available, right? So it's a kind of you can say a detailed insight given to you. You can even customize your own particular reports. You can even customize that how you wanted to view this information, and accordingly it will give you the detailed insight regarding the services what you are up and running and all, right? So uh, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Kubernetes and all, but you must have heard about like Prometheus, and there are many monitoring tools available for container monitoring and all, right? So something similar to that, you will get some insight from container front from the portal UI itself. So if you are going to work on this front and you have some particular Kubernetes cluster management, then definitely this is the place where you can manage and monitor the services the way it is expected. So ultimate goal over here is that this is one of the simplest way or simplest particular path in terms of deploying a simple cluster. Deploy your YAML file based configuration, and spin up your particular environment, which makes your UI up and running with this particular clusters and all, right? So that's basically one of the straightforward activity you can do it. uh, the recommendation is that at the end of the every activity you should clean up the environment if you're not going to use them, of course, unless and until if anything is in productionized environment and all, then definitely you can keep it alive. But if no use and you're doing it for learning purpose, please make sure that you clean up the resources at the end, right? So this is one of the simplest way in terms of creating a simple activity where you can say you may get familiar with user interface, you work with tool chain, and you can administer, manage, scale up, scale down, and all that particular stuff. You can do it from the portal or even command line interface and all. Now, along with this, if I'm talking about a little bit on certification front, right? So here, from the Azure certification, if I wanted to consider, uh, this is like a role based certification offered by Microsoft, right? So people who all are willing nowadays, like let's say I wanted to go ahead with my certifications and all, so the expectation from this certification, who all can attend or who all can pursue this particular certification track, right? So there are uh, if you have a background where you can say you might have you're planning to play a role of like managing your infrastructure, your virtualizations, your storage and whatnot, I mean networking and all that stuff, and you are planning, so I mean just simply take the example of Supriya's role, that she was playing a role of admin with managing storage and networking side of it. So something similar to that, right? If you're playing a role, or probably the way Ashwin has mentioned that he's like currently looking at some incident management, but he wanted to get into cloud. So you can imagine that from the support point of view, if any ticket may raise to manage and administer or configure the environment, looking at the business requirement, and you just need to handle those activities. So uh, variety of activities you might gonna play, and uh, you will end up configuring, managing and administrating infrastructure in a different way. It could be performance fine tuning, it could be landing zone fixing, it could be any support ticket you might get it and you need to fix that, or it could be a kind of you can say maybe governance point of view, because when you're working in large enterprises, they expect a governance activity also to be revolve around the infrastructure side, right? Like tagging, managing operational activity, cost optimization, and many other activities belongs to that. So ultimate goal is that over here, uh, you will play a successful role at the end of this particular certification track, which will help you to work as an Azure admin, and you can manage your infrastructure stack effectively with the help of it. Now, uh, there is a roadmap given from Microsoft. As I said, it's a role based certification, so that you can simply go ahead with the AZ-900. Now, of course, I mean AZ-900 if you are completely new to Azure, and first of all, you just wanted to clarify your understanding or doubts towards what cloud offerings and how you can get started with it and all, then AZ-900 is the first step what you can think through. But if you are already certified or you are already working on some particular platform and you just wanted to like get some professional certifications and get your hands dirty with actual hands on with cloud services and all, then AZ-104 is the good start with it, right? So of course, I mean this is again based on the role. If you're coming from infra or administration background, then AZ-104 is the good start. But yeah, I mean, if you're coming from development background and all, then Microsoft has AZ-204 as in separate certification, which is something targeted for the developer track and all. So that could be one of the like start you can think through, right? So here the option I can consider that AZ-900 is like fundamental, AZ-104 is the associate level, and with the launch of AZ-305, that is the new certification recently announced. Earlier it was AZ-303 and 304. AZ-305 is getting launched from this March, this year March, and they are retiring AZ-304. So 305 will be most active certification on solution architect expert side. So people who are coming from administrative background and pursue a career track on solution architect, then probably this is the way to go, right? So if you are certified with AZ-104, then definitely you can straightforward jump to AZ-305, and you can become a particular solution architect on that front as well. So there are multiple combinations given, since AZ-304 and 303 is still active as in certification, because since Microsoft is going to retire them, then you have a straightforward option that go ahead with AZ-104 and then 305. So right now some combination available with 304 as well, so till the time that certifications are active, right? But later stage from March onwards, I think 31st March onwards, you only have the way to go for 305 is to clear 104 and then go ahead with 305. So that will be like one of the best way to go for it, right? So here I can consider that uh, if I'm coming from infra background, right? So you can say compute, network, storage, or infrastructure point of view, then AZ-104 is something what you can look for. And definitely, I mean, there are some specializations nowadays coming up. So if in case you are planning for some security, for some other like data platform, AI/ML, and big data and other particular stuff, then Microsoft has some different certification offerings are also available. But right now, I mean, AZ-104, I can say it's applicable to all administrations and infra perspective who all are coming from with that background. This is something perfect certification track which you can look for, and you can like work on that particular path easily, right? So here it's you can say step by step way to go ahead and approach towards that certification. Now AZ-104 point of view, the certification objective, the exam objective, the Microsoft official web page what they have given for AZ-104, these are some certification objectives, right? So it starts with manage Azure identities with governance, implement and manage storage, deploy and manage Azure compute resources, configure and manage virtual networking, and monitor backup resources and all. Now, uh, these are some particular core area which Microsoft expects, and it is always identical that wherever you see the more weightage, you will expect more questions around that, right? So for example, if you see here the compute and as well as a networking side, there are configure and management of networking and deploy and management of compute side of it. You expect more questions coming from those area, right? So because the percentage or weightage is bit high, especially network and compute one. The other components like identity, storage, and backup is something bit lower side, but still, I mean, you can expect good number of questions around that. Now in certification, it's a 60-minute time, sorry, 120-minute given to you. It's a 2 hours certification, like you can say exam time frame duration. Now specifically the time management part of it, right? So usually people get stuck at one place, which is case study. Now case study is something one of the critical component of your examination, because when you are appearing for exam, then you need to understand whole scenario of that case study, and then you need to answer the each of the questions. So I suggest one of the workaround over here is that at least you should practice 2 to 3 case study thoroughly, understand the problem statement, because there are they in exam you get around 3 to 4 different tabs. They give you like company background, their architecture, their problem statement, their requirement, and they give you like 4 or 5 tabs, and then you need to attempt the questions. Now if you're lucky, then you will get minimum 4 question per case study. But yeah, if you do not have good time, then maybe maximum 9 question will be part of one case study, and that too around minimum 2 to 3 case study you can expect in examination, right? So it is expected that practicing case study is something very much required, that you work with it, you configure the requirement and practice a little bit, a few there are many practice tests are also available. So I suggest that maybe if you guys are really looking for those practice tests, you can take a look at it. And there are many portals and many platforms are available which will helpful to you in terms of working with that. So in case of any of the practice tests you are expecting, you can look for that. But yeah, in certification, these are some particular standard questions what you can get it. And these questions are going to helpful in terms of different area. Now there are variety of questions you will get it in examination. Those questions are coming from you can say case study scenario. As I said, you will get drag and drop questions, you will get fill in the blanks kind of questions, you will get arrange the sequence or steps, or maybe the UI based, which I mentioned, right? So those kind of questions will be there in your examination. So uh, when you guys are preparing for certifications, definitely you need to focus more on those area, and then definitely it will helpful to you in terms of getting into those questions. Now the way I used to manage case studies was little bit differently, because uh, I have cleared my all certification from Azure front, like 104, 204, and solution architect, and all of them. So I used to practice a lot with the case study, and the way I attempt my question was that I used to go to first case study, read the background of the organization or the problem statement what was given, then I straightforward jump onto the question rather reading other tabs. So first read the question, what area they are expecting, and then I go back to the specific tab and read those particular pointers. So first, background will give you the visibility what is expected or what company background is given in case study. And if you go back to the question, it will give you problem statement which part you need to solve, so that maybe you can go back and search a little bit about, okay, or maybe read about those particular thing in exact that specific area. So of course, if you do practice on case study front, that will give you more confidence that attempting any case study probably will like simplify it for you, and then you can like go ahead and plan the activity the way it is expected. So yeah, I think as per my recommendation, definitely these are some particular core activity what you can practice beforehand. And yeah, I think practice test before attempting any actual exam is something you should give it a try. There are plenty of portals available, and maybe you can say the testing platforms are available which will definitely helpful to you in terms of practicing those particular exams and all. So that will really helpful to you in terms of preparing for certifications and all, right? So yeah, my suggestion to you, all of you, is that take a look at it and see how you guys can play around with those particular activity. So let me see if you guys have any questions or queries. Please feel free to post it. Yeah. Meanwhile, here is the contact details. If you guys are really looking at further informations to get on a certification track, or you're planning to do anything as such, then these are some our contact informations where you can connect with us, you can show your interest, and definitely we will be able to help you out with any further informations if you're looking at it from the certification point of view, and what can be done, how you can approach, and all that stuff. We can help you out with those informations. Yeah. So any queries, questions? So I see one questions from Sai Sumant is that for networking background, which one is better? So as I mentioned that if you do not have any background on Azure first, then you can say this is something AZ-900 and all is the best way to get started probably, right? That is one particular options. And later stage, step by step, you can go ahead with this particular AZ, this what do you call the certification track with AZ-104. Even Microsoft has a dedicated AZ-700 networking certifications as well. So Microsoft has launched that particular certification, which is something focused on AZ-700, which is purely focused on networking. So if in case, if you are willing to go ahead with networking certifications and all, then AZ-700 is also one of the way to go about it, and you can attempt that particular certifications or learn about that part as well. But that is only focus on networking front. So if in case, if you are interested with overall cloud point of view, then definitely AZ-104 is something also applicable or helpful to you in terms of getting familiar with those concepts, and you can implement stuff on the networking front and other particular infrastructure front as well. So yeah, I mean that includes like multiple services and all. But yeah, if your interest is only towards networking and you wanted to specialize in that direction, then AZ-700 is something what you can look for, and that certification track will give you more insight regarding networking front, and you can have that certification in place as well. Make sense? Any questions, queries? I hope Premvada, I'm able to answer to your questions, or if you're looking for something more, please let me know. I can help you out. Or any other questions or queries from your end? Thank you, Sai Suman. Thank you. Yep. So, any further questions or queries regarding certifications or preparations, please let me know. I can definitely help you out and answer your questions. And yeah, of course, I mean, here is the contact details. If you have any further queries or questions regarding certifications and you're planning for something, then definitely you can reach out to us and we can help you out with those details the way it is expected. So yeah, I think here is the contact details where you can connect. And please like connect stay in touch. We do announce particular webinars and further informations on cloud learning side of it, so that will definitely help you out in terms of stay updated and stay informed. So yep, you will get further updates and further details on upcoming webinars and other particular events. So definitely we will continue sending you invites, and also you will get those notifications. So yeah, I think if no further questions, then Rohani, you wanted to add anything?
Yeah, hi Chikar. Just wanted to let everyone know that if they have any queries regarding any trainings that we provide, they can contact us on sales@techscalable.com, or this number 9731705961, or there's another number 9717972309.
Okay. Okay. Yep. That's it from my end. If any further queries or questions, please let me know. I can definitely help you out, and I can let you know if in case any further queries or questions if you have. So that's something, or else we can probably wind up the session as soon as no further queries or questions from you. And Ruhani has shared the contact details in chat. So if in case anybody is interested towards any further trainings or informations, you are feel free to connect with us, and we will help you out with further details and informations you need. Okay. Thank you so much. If no further questions, then we can end with our session and see you again with further webinar and further connects with more demos and informations on top of it. So, yep, stay tuned and like happy learning to you. Thank you so much.